Hi everybody, I'm Stefan for Tuts+, and in today's tutorial we are going to create this cool looking Christmas snowflakes background. And we are going to start in Illustrator preparing the vector shapes for the snowflakes so we can import them into Cinema 4D, extrude them and apply some materials. So here are some free shapes of snowflakes I found on the internet, and we are going to prepare them and use them for this tutorial. So here is the second file, and I like a few of these, so let's select this one, and we are going to select this and hit Ctrl C to copy the shape, and after that hit Ctrl N to open a new document and click OK. And now we are going to hit Ctrl V to paste this and scale it up just a bit. And as you can see, the shape looks good, so we can save this, and let's call this snowflake 1 and click save. And now we need to choose the version of Illustrator to be version 8 in order to be able to open the shape in Cinema 4D. So let's click OK, and we have our first shape ready to import it in Cinema 4D. Now let's close this and select another one, and I like, let's see, I like this one. So let's select the shape, hit Ctrl C to copy it, and again create a new document, paste the shape, and let's see. Here you can see that we are going to have some problems because of these super thin edges covering each other. So we need to select the points and just move them like that, and here again we need to do that as well. And it doesn't matter which point you move, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to be animated 3D shape inside of Cinema 4D, and it's going to move when we animate it in After Effects, so you're not going to notice anything. And once we fix all these edges here and here, oops, and this one here just in case, and I think we are ready. So let's double check if everything is okay. Everything looks good, and now you can see that this is a single shape and this one is a single shape as well, and we have 6 separate shapes which are exactly the same. And we are going to select everything, and after that we are going to click on the pathfinder, and we are going to merge all the shapes into one single shape in order to be able to extrude it without any problems in Cinema 4D. So you have to be careful, and you need to look out for problems like this here, because these files are not created with the idea to be extruded as a 3D shape in Cinema 4D. That's why you have to take care of these problems. And let's save this as a snowflake 2 and click save. Choose the right version of Illustrator file, and we are ready. Now let's see if we are going to use another shape from here. This shape looks cool, so we can just copy and paste this one, and it's perfect. We don't have to fix anything here. So let's save the file. And let's see, we can use this one if we like, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to use less different snowflake designs, and from this file I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to copy this and paste it right here, and this one looks great. We don't have to fix anything here, so we can save this one. And I think that 5 different snowflake designs will work just fine for the tutorial. And finally, I like this one, so I'm going to copy this one, and as you can see, this is the shape. We don't have any problems here, so I'm going to save this as a snowflake 5, and now we are ready to import the vector shapes in Cinema 4D and start extruding and texturing them there. So let's jump into Cinema 4D. Here we are in Cinema 4D, and I'm going to import our first snowflake and click OK. And as you can see, this is our snowflake. We need to reset its position so it is in the center, and now you need to click H on the keyboard just to center the snowflake in the center of the view here. And now we need to apply extrude NURBS holding down Alt, so it is the shape is a child of the extrude NURBS, and it's already extruded, as you can see. And now we need to go to the object and set the thickness of the object to 2, because we want the snowflake to be very thin and soft looking. And now we need to go to the caps and apply a fillet cap, and we need to set the steps to 3 and the radius to 0.5, just to create this nice bevel right here, as you can see. And you can click constrain, but in some cases, like here, it creates a problem, so I'm going to leave it off so we don't have any problems with this snowflake. And let's call this one 1, and take the second one and import it here. And we need to reset the coordinates of the snowflake and just select the shape, copy, and go to the first project right here and paste it. And we can just copy and paste this and click and rename this to 2, delete the first shape and put the second there. And as you can see, this is our second snowflake here. And now we can just create another copy, and let's name them as needed. And we are going to delete the splines here and import the third snowflake. As you can see, we need to select all the splines and just connect and delete them, and remove the null object, copy this one, and let's go to the first project here and just paste it and reset its position. And as you can see, we need to select this and go to mesh, axis center, and center axis 2 in order to be able to put the axis in the center of the snowflake. Now we need to reset its position again, and if we drop this here and extrude it, you can see how it looks like. And let's turn it off for now, import the next snowflake, which is pretty simple but one of my favorite. And let's reset its position once again, and let's go to the first project, paste it here and drop it under number 4, and if we extrude it you can see how it looks like. And let's turn off this one for now and import the last one and just reset its position, copy the shape and paste it here. And if we turn it on you can see how it looks like. And let's see, if we turn on the first one we need to start animating. So let's set the duration of the timeline to 300 frames, and we need to select the first one, and let's select the coordinates tab only, go to the first frame and set a keyframe for the rotation of the snowflake, and let's go to frame 150 and let's set this to 45 and set a keyframe, set this to -45 and set a keyframe, and let's go to the end of the timeline and reset this to 0, this to 0, and set the last one to 360. And we need to go to window and click on timeline. We need to select this and go to curve mode so we can see the curves, and this one is the curve that we need to make linear, because if we leave it like so it's going to start slowly to start rotating on the z-axis and slowly stop, which is something that we don't need. And as you can see, this is how the first animation of the first snowflake looks like. So we can stop this and turn it off, turn on the second one, and let's go to the beginning of the timeline and let's set a keyframes only for the first two parameters here. Go to the end of the timeline and set them to 360, and we are going to animate each snowflake in a different way to make them looking more random when we edit them in After Effects. So let's open the timeline again, select the second one, and we need to select the curves and make them linear, and let's see how our animation looks like. You can see. Now let's turn off this one and turn on the third one, and we are going to animate different parameters this time, these two. Go to the end of the timeline and let's set this to -360 and this one to 360 and set a keyframes. And before I edit the curves, I want to show you what the animation is going to look like if we don't edit the curves. So if we play this, and let me turn off the rest of the snowflakes. If we play this, you can see how it slowly stops and then starts, which is something that we don't want because it doesn't look natural. And let's select this and make them linear and close the timeline, turn off this one, and if we turn on the next one and turn on the extrusion, go to the coordinates, go to the first frame, and here we can click on the three parameters again, go to the 150 frame and set the first one to -45 and the second one to 45, the opposite of the animation we did on the first one, and set this to -360 just to create a bit of variation. And if we play it back, and as you can see, I created the keyframes by accident here. And let's see, let's go to the timeline, and I need to go to the last frame right here and reset this to 0, this to 0, and set this to -360 and set keyframes. And if we play back the animation, you can see it rotates pretty quickly, and we are going to fix that. We need to go to the timeline for the fourth snowflake, and we need to delete this middle keyframe here and make this linear. And if we play it back right now, you can see the animation is beautiful. So let's turn off this one and turn on the last one. Go to the first frame and let's animate this one, set this to 360 and this to -360, and go to the timeline once again and select the curves and make them linear and close the window. As you can see, this is how the animation looks like. Now we need to create material for the snowflakes, so let's double click to create a new material, and let's call this one snowflake, and we only need to enable the transparency and maybe change the absorption color to something more bluish, like this one. I think it looks good, and click OK. And we need to set the refraction to 1.5 maybe, and basically that's it. We are ready with the material. If we close this and put it on the snowflake, we can copy this material to the rest of the snowflakes, and we are ready. If we do a render, you can see it doesn't look very good because we don't have any environment to reflect. So the next step is to create the reflection environment for the snowflakes. I'm going to use the HDRI Studio Rig from Grayscale Gorilla in this tutorial, and just double click to import it here. And after that, I'm going to open the studios here and use the bevel reflection. And let's see if we do a render now, and let's turn the interactive render region here on the timeline so you can see the difference. When it animates, you can see some reflections going on, and it looks like almost like glass. And I'm going to render 2 or 3 snowflakes with this HDRI here to achieve certain look, and after that I'm going to use a completely different HDRI to create a different look. And for the second look, I'm going to use a HDRI I have in my own collection. So if we do a render now, you can see it looks differently because the HDRI is blurred and gives the snowflake a different look. So now what we need to do is to hit Ctrl B to go to the render settings, and let's go to the output and set the range to all frames, set the resolution to square resolution, and set the anti-aliasing to 2x2 to 4x4. And for the format, we are going to use a PNG with a alpha channel, and we need to set our render location, and we need to create a camera now, and let's reset the camera position and rotation, and maybe set this to -300, and we need to play back each snowflake and see if it goes out of the frame, because this is something that we don't want. And this one is okay. Let's turn on this one, which is okay. This one is okay as well. This one is okay, and first one looks good as well. So now what we need to do is just to set the output folder and start rendering. I'm not going to do that because I already rendered the snowflakes, and the next thing that we're going to do is to jump in After Effects and start compositing and using the 3D snowflakes renders. So let's jump in After Effects. Here we are in After Effects with the 3D renders already imported here. So I'm going to select all of them and drop them here to create a new composition. And I want to create a single composition and sequence layers, and click OK. And as you can see, this is how the renders look like, and this is going to be our snowflake particle composition. And let's click OK. Make sure that the frame rate is 30 frames per second, and let's create a new composition. Let's make it HD, and let's set the duration to 60 seconds and click OK. It's very important that the frame rate of the custom particle that we are going to use and the frame rate of the composition that we create our particle system are exactly the same, because otherwise we are going to have some issues with the particles. And now let's create a new layer, and let's call this one BG for background, and click OK. Go to Effect, Generate, and apply ramp, and ramp shape, choose radial ramp, and put this in the center of our composition. And let's change the color to something like a dark blue color, and let's increase the position of the end color like so. And now we need to go to our project and take the custom particle composition and drop it right here and turn it off. And let's call this composition main, because this is going to be the main composition we're going to work in. And let's create another layer, and let's call this one 3D snowflakes, because this is going to be the layer where we are going to apply the 3D snowflakes. And I'm going to apply trap code particular on this layer. As you can see, this is how it looks like. Now we need to make a few tweaks. First of all, open the emitter section and change the emitter type from point to box, and increase the size on the x-axis to 2500, and increase the emitter size on the z-axis to 2500 as well. And let's set the velocity to 50, or even to 20, and let's open the physics tab and set the gravity to -20, or excuse me, 20, because we want the particles to fall down. And let's go to the particle tab and set the life of the particles to 12 seconds, and set the size over life like so. so at the end they shrink down and disappear. We need to move the position of the emitter upwards, like so, like negative 250, and maybe increase the life of the particles to 20 seconds. And as you can see at the beginning, we don't have any particles, so we need to go to the emission extras and increase the pre-run to 100%. This way at the beginning we have particles already emitted, and maybe this is very fast for the particles. I think the speed is okay. Maybe we can change the gravity to 15 or 10 and reduce the number of particles to 25, and go to the particle type and select the sprite particle, and let's go to the texture and select the snowflakes particle, and we get message that this composition is big, 800 by 800 pixels, and this is going to slow down the process. Click OK, and now let's increase the size of the particles to something bigger, like 150, and we need to reduce this to 8, for example. And as you can see, now we have exactly the same particle, and we need to change the time sampling because it is the current time. The time sampling is set to current time, which means that at the beginning, if you go to this composition, we have this particle, and if we move here just one frame before we change the next shape and go to the main composition, if we go one frame forward, you're going to see that the particle changes, which is something that we don't want. That's why we are going to change the time sampling to split clip whoop, and we need to set the number of clips inside the composition. So if we set this to 5, we are telling the trapcode particular that there are 5 different clips that are exactly the same duration each one, and we want to split them and apply them on the particles and whoop them. And as you can see, this is the result so far. Maybe we need to set the size to set the number of particles to 6 and increase the size to 180. Now we need to close this and apply trapcode star glow and change the preset to code heaven, for example, and open the pre-process and play with the threshold. And if we increase the threshold, only the brightest parts of the snowflakes will emit the glow, and if we decrease it, the snowflakes will entirely emit the glow. So I like to keep it around 200, and the threshold soft is like applying a blur and allowing the glow to be applied smoothly to fade out, because if we set this to 0, you can see a very sharp transition between the glow and the snowflake, and if we increase this, you can start seeing a smooth transition. So I think that 30 or 50 is fine. And these are the snowflakes. Now we need to create a new layer, and let's call it particular small, and let's apply trapcode particular again, and here we are going to use the snowy night preset. As you can see, what we need to tweak is to go to the emission extras and enable the pre-run and set it to 100, and maybe increase the size on the X and the Z axis. And let's see, maybe we need to increase the width of the particles to 8 and reduce the number to 100, and set the size of the particles to 3 or maybe 2, and we are going to make them out of focus like so. And you can use the standard camera lens blur in After Effects right here. I prefer using this plugin here. And if we set this to 25, you can see how it looks like. Maybe you can decrease the number of particles even more and set this to add blending mode, and maybe this one as well. Apply motion blur for the small particles, which we need to rename to out of focus. And let's create a new layer, and change the name, and basically we need to duplicate this, it will be faster. Let's rename this like that, and we need to decrease the number of particles to 25. We need to change the random seed here and increase the size to something like 10, and increase the blur a lot, like 100, and maybe set the number of particles to 8. Increase the size a bit more, maybe 12 is fine. And right now we need to create another layer, and let's call it particular small, and apply trap code particular again, and again use the snowy night 1 or 2 presets, doesn't really matter. And right now we need to, I'm going to use the first preset and open the emitter, go to the emission extras, set the prerun to 100 and set the number of particles to 100 as well, and go to the particle and decrease the size to 0.5, just to add like small snowflakes like detail, and duplicate the layer, and let's call this one big, and set the number to 150, and change the random seed and change this to 1.5 or 1, just to add a bit of variation here, and increase the size of the emitter as well as here, like that. And right now we need to create another layer, and let's call it particular OF for optical flares, and let's click OK, and we need to pre-compose this layer, and let's open the composition. Let's apply trap code particular again and use the snowy night 1 preset, and let's open the emitter, set the number of particles to 100 or even 50, increase the size here, go to the emission extras and set the prerun to 100, open the particle, remove the feather of the spheres, and maybe set the width of the particles to 8 as well, or maybe 6, and decrease the number to 35 and reduce the size to 0.5 or 0.8, and maybe go to the physics, open the air module and apply some turbulence just to make the particles move a bit more randomly, and go to the main composition, turn off this layer, create a new solid and call it OF for optical flares, click OK, go to Effect, Video Copilot and apply optical flares, and go to Options, and let's resize the interface of optical flares here, and I'm going to use a preset. Let me find the preset. Maybe I can create it by myself to save some time. So I want to apply a glow and a streak and reduce the streak, and maybe I want more streaks, like 3 more, and let's size it down like that, and maybe select the glow and set the gamma to 0.7, which decreases the glow, as you can see. And if we click OK, this is our custom lens flare that we just built, and we need to go to the positioning mode and change it to luminance, and for the source layer we need to change to particular optical flares comp. This is how it looks like when we use the particles to create lens flares, and I think that we need to decrease the number of particles to 10, and maybe don't track the scale of the particles and the brightness and the color, and let's reduce the scale to 15%, and let's change the blending mode to screen for this. And now we need to apply a bit of color grading, so let's create a layer, new adjustment layer, and let's call this one CC, and let's go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and let's increase the contrast a bit and maybe add a bit of bluish color, and let's create a new adjustment layer, and let's call this one Noise, and we're going to apply blur and sharpen and set this to 15, and go to Effect and apply a bit of noise, remove the color noise and set this to 5. And I think that that's it. That's everything on how to create this cool looking Christmas snowflakes background, and you can experiment and render even more different snowflakes to give the final result more randomness. So that's it. Hope you liked the tutorial and find it useful. Once again, I'm Stefan for Tuts Plus, and we will see you next time.